Welcome to this new video. This is absolutely not the video I plan to make today. However, a massive surprise rocked the internet yesterday, the release of the second Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer. Like most, I'm anticipating this game the most. Although Grand Theft Auto 6's style differs from the games I typically show you, I will definitely make videos about it and follow its development closely. The latest news about Grand Theft Auto 6. So today, in this video, I suggest we talk about all the information we can learn thanks to this second trailer. Published yesterday, May 6th, 2025. While focusing on a key game element that's crucial in Grand Theft Auto, and also on my channel. Cars and different vehicles. So, of course, when the game comes out, I'll make a bunch of guides about customization, the best vehicles, and the new features, covering experiences with physics, driving, and related topics. Subscribe if you enjoy this type of content. I believe Grand Theft Auto 6 will offer many activities like this. Please consider subscribing and leaving a like. And now, let's get started with all the information contained in this second trailer. We'll start with the cars. So of course, we're going to talk about everything we learn about the characters, the map, the game's story, and the different activities. In just a moment. But, as I was saying, I'm still going to focus a bit on the cars, because it's a central element of Grand Theft Auto and a central element of the games I play on my channel. So, what's pretty impressive with this new trailer is that we can see quite a few new cars confirmed, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But most importantly, every new car model will be featured in Grand Theft Auto 6. We're pretty much, almost every time now, looking at copy-paste versions from real life. In previous Grand Theft Auto games, the in-game vehicle models have always taken inspiration from real cars. In Grand Theft Auto Vice City, there were imitations of Mercedes, Cadillac, Ferrari, and Chevrolet vehicles. However, there was always a significant disparity between the in-game model and the real-life inspiration in Grand Theft Auto. This wasn't due to technical limitations, because there were games at the time like Gran Turismo, Need for Speed, that had exact copies from reality. It was an artistic choice that allowed them to forgo official licenses. Brands often don't want to be associated with games that have violence, even remotely. And in Grand Theft Auto, there's quite a bit of violence, to say the least. As time passed, the developers ensured the cars appeared increasingly realistic. That became really obvious with the last 3 or 4 DLCs for Grand Theft Auto Online. Because even when Grand Theft Auto V first came out, there was still a big difference between real cars and the cars in Grand Theft Auto V. Now, with the last 3 or 4 DLCs, there's almost no difference between real cars and those in Grand Theft Auto V, and that difference is going to get even smaller, if we believe what they're saying. The first car models that we got to see had a bit more detail than in the first trailer. For some of them, I think they're models taken from Grand Theft Auto V but updated. In my view, the car in this screenshot is the Du-Class's Vigero ZX, which was added to Grand Theft Auto in a recent update. The car appears to be a copy of the Chevrolet Camaro. It will likely be called the Vigero ZX in Grand Theft Auto, 6 retaining the same name. It appears to have been more detailed with minor adjustments to specific body panels. They will look very similar, but not identical. Since Grand Theft Auto 6 will feature new graphics and physics engines, the look and handling will differ from previous games. But among the confirmed, ultra-realistic models, which closely resemble real-life cars, as we've seen, so we have the Du-Class's Vigero ZX here, which is a copy of the Chevrolet Camaro. We have this car which, in my opinion, is an Obe, which is a copy of Audi, probably inspired by an A5. We have the Caracara VAPI, which we already had in Grand Theft Auto Online, but it has been completely redesigned and is now honestly a copy-paste of a Ford Raptor. In this case, it's obvious. I wonder how they managed to avoid lawsuits. We have a copy, I think, of the Ford Interceptor for the police, and we also have a copy of the Dodge Viper, which must be the Banshee, an iconic Grand Theft Auto model that we've pretty much always had. And also, I think, a modernized version of the Stanier that we had in Grand Theft Auto V, which was a copy of the Ford Crown Victoria. There, we were able to spot one for the police, and in this case, it's the same. The copy-paste is real. We're going to find a new model from Pfister, which is the brand that copies Porsche in Grand Theft Auto. It's difficult to determine if it will resemble a Cayman or a Boxster, but based on current trends, a Cayman seems more probable. The Coquette, a copy of the Corvette C8, is shown again with even more detail. But it's hard to say because it was in the background, so the photos are a bit blurry. We also have a new Lamborghini, and I think this is a model we don't see in Grand Theft Auto V. It's clearly a mix between a Huracan and an Aventador. We also have a car that could potentially be the new Kareem Sultan, essentially a latest generation Subaru Impreza. That concludes my list of vehicles not shown in the first Grand Theft Auto trailer. What's cool is that we also got to see a bit more detail of other vehicles that we had already seen in the previous trailers. In particular, there were some pretty cool shots of the Chevrolet El Camino belonging to one of the main characters. There's also a replica of the Cadillac Eldorado, which we see parked in the background, and it looks really incredibly detailed. Then, there are quite a few vehicles that we only see briefly, pretty quickly, and not in enough detail to really say which model they're based on. New pickups, possibly Chevrolets or Fords, are visible, and in the distance there might be a Jaguar F-Type replica. Here, in this screenshot, we can clearly see a Chevrolet Chevelle in the foreground and in the background. That looks like a Lexus or Mercedes copy, though it's a bit blurry. Speaking of Mercedes, I forgot to mention it earlier, but we could actually see a new benefactor in the foreground, which is clearly almost a 100% copy of a modern Mercedes C-Class. And for every car we've seen in these trailers, honestly, we're really starting to get close to reality now, to the point where we can wonder to what extent the manufacturers will or will not want to try to file a lawsuit against Grand Theft Auto. The cars appear highly detailed, with not much else to report at the moment. They have good interior modeling and nice driving animations. However, more needs to be seen. Most importantly, we need gameplay footage to see what might be tweaked in cutscenes and what will actually be in the game. But for example, as we can see in some images, resting your elbow on the door or sticking your hand out the window, that might be something we'll be able to do since some NPCs in the cutscene are doing it. Even if we can't do it, others doing it will add life and credibility to the Grand Theft Auto universe. Because I think a lot of us drive like that when it's hot, you know, and in Vice City, it's hot. Now let's discuss the other information about Grand Theft Auto 6, aside from the vehicle-related news we just covered. Although this isn't a gameplay trailer, it was recorded on PlayStation 5 using the game's cinematic engine, providing valuable information. And especially on the Grand Theft Auto website, the developers and the publisher gave a lot of information about the different characters on the map with new screenshots that I'll show you. By the way, there won't necessarily always be a connection between what I'm saying and what I'm showing you. But this way, I just want to show you a little bit. Everything we can find about the new information on the website and in the trailer. First, we have the standard, not very detailed synopsis of Grand Theft Auto 6. The advantage is that it will allow for significant freedom in the various twists we may encounter in the game's story. Here's what it says. I quote, Vice City, United States of America. Jason and Lucia have always known that the odds were stacked against them. But when an easy job goes wrong, they find themselves on the darkest side of the sunniest place in America, at the heart of a conspiracy that spans the entire state of Leonida. They will be forced to rely on each other more than ever if they want to make it out alive. Well, like I was saying, it sounds like a random American movie plot, but you have to see how it's used. The subplots before the main story's judgment will involve playing as Jason and Lucia, two playable characters in Grand Theft Auto. By the way, there's actually a lot of sex in this new trailer. You can tell there's definitely an emphasis on the romance between the two main characters of the game. So now, I'm going to show you a bit about the different characters we have more information on. I'll show you their photos each time, and then a short text describing what we've learned about them. The text provides more details about the two main characters, Jason and Lucia. We learn a little bit about their past, and we also learn more about other characters. They're not secondary characters, but likely won't be playable. For example, Cal Hampton, who seems to be, to a lesser extent, the Trevor of Grand Theft Auto 6, mixed with Lester, who is paranoid, a conspiracy theorist, and somewhat withdrawn from traditional society. We'll also have Booby Ike, who comes from the city's less privileged classes but who managed to make it out by investing in businesses of varying legality, particularly in the music industry as a rap producer for artists like Juan Priest, another character in the game. Booby Ike produces music for an up-and-coming rapper who reminds the speaker of original gangster Love of Chaos from the video game San Andreas. He seems tough like a gangster, but is actually quite laid back. And then, these two women who founded Real Demise, who also had their own little success in the musical history of Vice City. There's also Raul Batista, who will probably be one of our future employers, since he's a bank robber who's looking for new talent to hire to help him plan and carry out his heists. And then, probably another person we'll work for is Brian Heder, who's one of the city's drug dealers and who lets Jason, one of the main characters, stay for free, on the condition that he agrees to take part in a few rackets and a bit of dealing. Of course, we also have several new pieces of information about the MAP. So, well, the MAP. Let's remember that it's Vice City, but it won't be the same Vice City that we knew from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. What made Miami the inspiration for Vice City in Grand Theft Auto Vice City successful was the 80s. The game is set in the modern era of 2015, 2020, so while there will be some references to the 80s, it won't be the primary focus. By the way, one of the nods I noticed in this trailer is a scene where you see the television. And on the television, you see an ad for Ammunition, the famous gun store that's been around since the beginning. Pretty much, I think, since Grand Theft Auto. So, in that ad, we see Phil, possibly Phil Cassidy from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. We'll need to examine it more closely. How do you justify that in terms of the story? Because it seems to me that Phil Cassidy in Grand Theft Auto Vice City is already in his 40s, so that would mean that 40 years later he's 80 years old. The ad doesn't seem to show that. Since he was a gun dealer in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, we might see him again. Maybe there will be missions with him. Maybe there will just be some nods. No idea, but in any case, it was cool. I think the nods to Grand Theft Auto Vice City are great. The map will be divided into several zones, about which we have a bit more information. Grass Rivers will be the swampy area, which was completely absent from Vice City back in the day. Here, we know that the map will be much bigger. It will be the swamps. That's probably where we'll run into, for example, the alligators we've seen in previous trailers. But also other predators considered much more dangerous, about which we don't have too much information for now. There will be Port Galehorn, which is the forgotten coast of Leonida. It will likely be a poor district, contrasting with the ultra-touristy and wealthy districts that are emphasized in the first trailers. It's a rundown area with empty malls, closed attractions, cheap motels, and is frequented by those who are struggling or addicted to drugs. There will be Ambrosia, which will be the more industrialized area, with more businesses and more factories. We know a local biker gang, possibly a nod to the Vice City bikers from Grand Theft Auto Vice City, will be there. They were kind of like the Hells Angels, Rockstar style, who had all sorts of fraudulent and illegal businesses like racketeering, drugs, robberies, and more. The area will have an old-school American feel. Mount Calagus National Park will be located in the north of the map. It'll be an area where there will probably be a lot of mountains, hunting spots, and fishing. It'll be more countryside in nature, but in a completely different style from the swamp's nature. There you go, obviously. There's another piece of information that's confirmed. The game will be released on May 26, 2026 on PlayStation 5 and Xbox. Currently, there's no confirmed PC version release date. It may launch later or simultaneously with other versions, but it's not officially announced yet. By the way, I believe the trailer was captured on a PlayStation 5. Now, we'll discuss possibilities rather than confirmed information in the video. But there are quite a few activities that seem confirmed just by looking at the trailers. For example, the sports activities we had back in the days of Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which have kind of disappeared altogether. It's common to see people running or lifting weights on the beach. That may or may not be an activity we can do. Maybe it will be reserved for NPCs, but that would still seem strange for the creativity of the open world. Dancing is currently a big focus, with emphasis on music, clubs, and parties where many people are seen dancing. In San Andreas, players participated in a dancing activity where they had to press the correct buttons at the right time for their character to perform the corresponding dance moves. With the music, it would still seem pretty believable. We can imagine that the robbery of convenience stores and small shops will return, like in Grand Theft Auto V, where you can rob them for small amounts of money. Outside of those missions, it will probably be the case, especially since the game will also be very focused on heists. So, it's the same thing. The trailers show several robbery scenes, including home invasions. So, we can imagine that maybe we'll also see the return of burglaries, which was a side activity in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I think it was quite popular among players. Possibly as well. The system of purchasable headquarters and houses, a feature present in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, has largely disappeared from the series since then. Sure, we have headquarters in Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5, but we can't buy them and enjoy them anymore. At least, in the story mode of the game, because it's true that online, in Grand Theft Auto 5, you can buy lots of properties. Multiplayer differs from single player. Street races, a Grand Theft Auto classic, will likely return, having been present for a long time. By the way, there were some back in the Vice City days. There was a whole story arc in the game that was mandatory, where you had to steal cars or do races, and you had to win to complete the mission. Given the new cars, given the chases we've seen, it would make sense for there to be some... We may see car customization and nitro installation return, but we'll discuss that later once it's confirmed. Nightclubs and possibly even strip clubs, a Grand Theft Auto classic, will likely be included. And it's the same here, we can see them. So now that we're in the realm of speculation, there might be the possibility to interact in some way. Well, let's just say, a bit risque. Between the two characters in the game, given the number of butts and butt scenes shown during the cutscene, it's incredible. There are really a lot of them. It's worth noting that this is the first time in Grand Theft Auto history that the game follows a couple. So maybe we'll have the chance to try to bring the two characters closer from time to time, just to improve their relationship or not. We'll see what the game's story has to offer. Same, there are quite a few people who think that because we're going to play as both of them, and because their bond will be very strong as a couple. Obviously. It's entirely possible that at some point in the game, we'll have to choose between the survival of one or the other. It's the kind of very difficult choice to make, but one that has really left a mark on players. Grand Theft Auto IV, a masterclass in storytelling, has different outcomes based on the choices you make in the game. I won't spoil it for those who haven't played it yet. However, two characters in the game can die, which is incredibly frustrating either way. it still greatly impacts other characters' morale and gameplay. Continuing with the small details, it seems that you can buy alcohol, for example, maybe even carry it with you, since in one of the first shots of the cutscene you can see other characters going to a grocery store to buy some. There's also a short scene with hand-to-hand combat. And in this short sequence, it looks like the character Lucha is doing kickboxing. Will it be possible to learn new fighting techniques in the game, similar to how it was in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas or True Crime from the past? Or will hand-to-hand combat be more advanced, with more moves than in Grand Theft Auto V? We'll see later. Mission question. Well, it's true that it looks like anything but basic. You can really feel the Fast and Furious vibe in some scenes with escapes by plane. Or those famous missions where you go steal safes attached behind the car. Actually, there's a sequence near the end of the trailer where you see Jason's character jumping from one car to another. Is that something we'll be able to do ourselves in the open world? Kind of like what you could do in Willman, which is a game featuring Vin Diesel. Players desire gameplay footage because the two released trailers only contained pre-rendered cinematic footage, dear Babuline. In my opinion, this will either sustain the hype or let it fade, making a significant difference. It's the difference between the open world we see in the cinematics and the actual thing. How alive it really is and what it could actually be like. So, obviously, we're all keeping our fingers crossed that it's exactly the same as in the cinematics. And if that's the case, it'll be amazing. When you observe all the activities AIs perform, their movements, actions, animations, and the fluidity and believability of their gestures, it's impressive. The NPCs in the game act like real people, with varied walking styles, appearances, speech patterns, and gestures during conversation, reflecting the diversity of individuals in the real world. The cutscenes are also quite crazy. We'll definitely monitor it closely. I had been keeping this information to myself. There's still something I'm personally looking forward to seeing. But well, maybe it'll be a bit of a niche thing. If we can buy cars, if we can customize them, if there's an interior view, what will the physics be like? Will we go back to a more realistic and heavier driving style, with more advanced vehicle damage, like in Grand Theft Auto 4, for example? Will it be more arcade-like instead? Can we drift? There's so much I'm eagerly anticipating. And that's the reason why I'm following the game so closely and the reason why I'll regularly give you little video updates whenever there are, of course, some news. Thank you all for watching this video. I'm counting on you to leave as many likes as possible, and we'll see each other very soon for a new one. And especially, we'll see each other this afternoon live. Alright, see you all, bye.